is there ever anything that, you know, Tolkien had written or Peter comes up with that he wants to do that you're just like, how do I wrap my brain about how can we do this? Or is everything like, yeah, we know how to do that, let's do this?
You know, it's a combination of both. Like in broad strokes, we've touched on a lot of different areas. We know what it is we need to do, but the devil is always in the details, right? Like we know how to make a waterfall, but to really make a fast-moving waterfall with, you know, 12 dwarves going over them in barrels and getting all that dynamics and all the interaction correct, that's still a big challenge. There's still a lot that has to be done there. Or, you know, things like Smaug moving through the coins. Well, okay, we know how to simulate a lot of coins moving, but a dragon that's twice the size of a 747 moving through 1 billion coins, you know, that's not easy. Like, you have an idea of physically what's supposed to happen, but still to simulate all that required all new software, all new computer power. I mean, because you're talking things that take, you know, months and months to turn around.
What was maybe the most challenging, you know, scene or aspect of the film for you?
I think the most challenging was Smaug, because you had to really figure out his personality, right? I mean, you've got this huge creature, but the only way he's going to work is if he can believably have these dialogue scenes with Bilbo. They have to play as characters, but you've never had a character like this that's essentially got the you know, a head the size of a bus that has to carry on dialogue with this little, you know, half-size human character, and so it's really just trying to find the right notice, the right moment of you know, mass and size to how subtle is his performance and how big is his performance, and just trying to find that whole range, because you need the characterization to be there. You need his personality to come through front and center, and then from that you have to support that with, okay, now how are we going to do the muscles? How are we going to do the skin simulation? How many scales are on his body? How big? How small? You know, can we get the skin to wrinkle the right way? Can his eyes do the right thing? So all the detail follows from what does his performance need to be. The whole visual effects process starts very early in the production these days. Like, you take the barrel sequence as an example. We knew what the sequence needed to be in broad strokes. Peter wanted to expand beyond what was in the book, so that they don't just escape and ride down the river, but there's actually a chase that ensues. You know, the orcs are trying to catch up to them, and the elves are trying to catch them, but also defending the territory. So now we know there's going to be this three-way battle happening over the river. So immediately we all start talking, you know, with Peter and amongst ourselves about what can we do with, you know, with action pieces to come up with this. Christian Rivers, who's our previous supervisor, is very, you know, instrumental in this side of it as well. So we start coming up with ideas, we start putting pieces in there, and really just roughing them in, like just really low resolution, you know, almost schematic forms for the story. So we can discuss then with Peter, is this going in the right direction or not? And once we know we're heading in the right direction, we try to stitch all these things together and kind of lay the whole plan out. So we work with Alan Lee and John Howe. They start doing artwork for, you know, each of these key beats. What's it going to look like? You know, what does the river look like, the landscape, the trees around it, and so forth. And we kind of lay everything out, and we map it out to where you have this like 2-kilometer stretch of river that this action is taking place on. Okay, now what are we going to do for that? How are we going to make that work? Well, certain parts of it we know we can shoot. We've got locations in New Zealand that will work. So we go to those locations, we scan them, we make digital copies of them, we drop them into our river. Now we start getting higher resolution pieces of the river. We know if we shoot these bits here, they'll drop in for these particular parts of the sequence. What do we do for the rest of it? Well, those are going to have to be digital. So now we start working on creating them digitally, and we eventually build this whole landscape out so that we have the whole scene can play in a flow. And then we figure out what we can shoot by putting, you know, guys in barrels just on a small set for the close-ups, or can we put guys in barrels for rivers, where for the parts where it's not moving too much, where the water's moving quickly, or if it's going over waterfalls. If we've got locations, we shoot empty barrels and we weight them down and we put the dwarves in digitally afterwards. And if you've got, after all that, things that are just too big to even shoot that way, we know we're doing it all digitally. So you have this range of techniques, and it all comes from this sort of previous planning that starts, you know, well before we shoot anything. Well, I mean, 48 frames, you know, what it's really designed to do is give you a better and smoother sense of the motion, and that really pays off if you're seeing the movie in stereo. And you know, to that degree, we use it wherever we can creatively. For us, it's mostly in animation, right? Like you would see it on the first movie in the Gollum sequence, where we can really take advantage of fine-tuning the animation because you have more frames to work with. And you would see it in this movie, like on the Smaug sequence or in the river sequence. If you look at the detail in the river now, because we can shoot and render everything at 48 frames, you get much more detail than you'd ever be able to see any other way. So yeah, we just keep working on those advancements, and hopefully we'll be able to do even more with the third film.